Yeah, that sounds good. All right, so Mennonite Church camp. If it wasn't responsible for making me gay, it certainly helped push the process along. So the first scene I'll paint for you, a beautiful summer day, blue skies, clouds floating along, swimming pond full of 8- and 9-year-old boys. They're jumping off the diving board. The few extremely brave and impressive ones are jumping off the high diving board, swimming around, dunking each other. The teenage and college age counselors are interspersed between them, trying to keep them from drowning. And I, as an 8- or 9-year-old boy, am on the raft, and I'm looking at the boy next to me, and I say to him, "You look like Oliver Twist." This meant a lot to me to say this. And the background in my head as I was saying this was the previous year of my life in which I had discovered innate passion and love for Broadway musicals, especially the musical Oliver, which is full. The story of Oliver Twist from Charles Dickens. It's full of these orphan boys who get together and sing songs, and especially Oliver, the beautiful young blonde one who has this beautiful high voice and sings songs about finding love and such things. I had a little pillow fort where I would stay and listen to this in my headphones about every day. And this boy inspired these feelings in me that Oliver inspired in me, and looked like Oliver from the cover of my tape. Unfortunately, I don't think this boy knew exactly what I meant. So back on the raft, he looks at me and he says, "Well, you look like Kermit the Frog," and does a cannonball into the pond. And I'm left there a little bemused. This probably goes down in the history of my personal life as both my first and my least effective pickup line ever. But this is summer camp, so some of my first years there. And of course, summer camp is full of games. It's the campfires. It's the songs you sing, the snacks you eat together. And the counselors, who are these godlike teenage beings when you're an 8- or 9-year-old. One in particular was named Joe, and this is maybe the same year, maybe a year or two after I had my experience with Oliver, who I actually don't know what his real name is. Joe was an amazing counselor that I had, who for some reason I just had to be around all the time. I don't really remember what he looks like. I had no clue what age he was. He could have been anywhere from 14 to 40 or something. I didn't really have a clue at the time. But I just knew that he was the most wonderful person in the world. He was kind to us and, would listen to us. I thought he was so cool, and I had this incredible trusting bond with him. He was the counselor who took me to the hospital when I fell off the bench as I was marching along to When the Saints Go Marching In and broke my toe and had to have a cast and be on crutches. He was the one who would stand with me. He was the counselor that, very significantly, I was very ashamed of my propensity to wet the bed at that age, that when we were having a sleepover in the tree house and I peed in my sleeping bag, I felt comfortable enough to wake him up in the middle of the night and say, "Joe, I peed in my bed." And then I had to wake him up again because he fell back asleep. But Joe took my sleeping bag and me and walked with us in the middle of the night back to the cabin and threw my sleeping bag in the washing machine, and none of the other boys found out that I had peed in my sleeping bag. And for some reason, I couldn't really figure out the time. I missed Joe a lot and thought about him for the whole rest of the year. So, so I went back to summer camp every summer. And it became one of the highlights of my year. My younger sister, I have 3 siblings. My younger sister is the one I has usually been the closest with and I talk with the most. She and I both had this passion for going to Mennonite summer camp. This is Camp Wells in Ohio, every year. And so we would always get all excited and tell each other how much we were looking forward to going to camp. We go back every summer, and as you go back, it's the games and it's the campfires and the swimming, which is incredible to swim in a pond when you're that age. I don't really remember why exactly it's so amazing, but it's so amazing. And also something about this community where you can sort of open up and be fully yourself and feel like you're a part of this social world that's so exciting and open and accepting, and you're a part of it. And you're learning about, this God thing in a way that's separate from your home and your church and just everything you're told by your parents. And you can express it on your own a little bit, and you're encouraged to maybe get up and say a little something at campfire. And it's a part of you. It's something you're doing. So it's the best part of my summer every year. Age 14, this is the summer between my 8th grade year and freshman year of high school. I go back. This is, I think, one of the only times, Martha's 2 years younger than me, my sister. This is one of the only times I think we actually went to the same camp. But I go back ready to have, another incredible week at Camp Luz. So I'm sitting in the chapel on the first day of camp, just kind of looking around at all the other kids, and I notice this boy playing the piano. And there's something about him that's extremely exciting, so I'm just kind of sitting and I'm watching him. And what he's doing is he's improvising for this girl and impressing her incredibly with his improvisation. And he has this beautiful angelic face. He has blonde, curly hair. And he has this kind of mannerism which is completely free, something very open about it, slightly feminine, incredibly alluring. And I kind of stare at him for this entire time, and then we go off and I can kind of see him around the rest of the day, just chatting with everybody. And that night, I can't fall asleep because I'm just thinking about him. And I don't know why I'm thinking about it. I just can't stop thinking about this boy. There's something amazing about him, something I've never felt that he's inspiring in me. But I can't talk to him because I feel so shy, I feel so awkward and inadequate whenever I'm, in front of this completely angelic being. So this might have been just a completely silent and an internal passion of mine without any connection, except, as it turns out, having a very outgoing and social younger sister who also happens to always fall in love with the same boys that I do, is actually an advantage when you're a closeted young gay boy and getting a little closer to these boys. So Martha comes up to me about the next day and she's like, hey, we got this group together, you should come play games with us. So it turns out she and some of her friends, who years later, conversations later, we figure out we're all in love with the same guy, had cornered him and pulled him into a little group to play card games. So the rest of this week I spend on the other side of a picnic table or sitting by the pond playing a card game called Killer Winkerby, which involves somebody drawing a card and you're figuring out which one of you is the killer, and then you look at each other and you're winking, and you're trying to get the other people not to see you to wink, and so you wink at somebody and they have to pretend to die. So in summary, I'm staring into this boy's eyes the whole week, and he's winking at me every now and then, and I have to pretend to die, which is exactly what I felt like doing every time I look in his eyes. So the week gets to an end, and I kind of shake his hand and say goodbye, and go home and say, oh man, I'm gonna have to forget about this boy, and I write a lot of poetry, and I'm very dreamy, and these incredibly deep feelings are lasting for years, and I don't really understand them, but they're a big part of who I am. A couple years later, I think I'm about 17, I go back to camp, and this time I'm a counselor. So I'm going back for the counselor training week. And there's another boy there who I really like. Again, he's very cute. This one has dark hair and dark eyes. And we just connected. We became really good friends. We had some mutual interest in music, so he would grab a chair for me to sit beside him, and whenever we were going to eat, we would sit beside each other and sing during the worship services. We did a little performance together at the last talent show, and it was not only those feelings I had for those earlier boys, but there was a connection where I could actually, there was something that he was giving back to me. And I have this memory of this hug that he gave me right in the middle of everybody. I think we're in the middle of a meal or something. He just walks up to me and grabs me and gives me this big hug. And it was this feeling that, of complete sort of fulfillment from that hug that was very remarkable to me. So, Camp Luz was a place where I sort of became my own person spiritually, which is, I think, exactly what, wants to inspire in good Mennonite children. You know, they want to teach you about God, and you learn about God. You sort of become comfortable in talking about God with other people, and, you know, not only with your parents and your own church, but out in your own world. Camp Les is a place that that taught me to love God, but it was also a place where I was taught to love boys. So.